All right, what's going on, guys? We're back with another episode of the Principal's Chair. Today, I'm here with Steven, and I'll let Steven introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Steven Carpenter. I'm the Fire Marshal for Tiger River Fire Department, and I'm excited about being here.
I appreciate it, man. So, we know that now I'm in this season of preparedness, so that's why I'm at in this show. So, talking about preparedness, last week we went through a lot of things where people can find different things to do to better themselves. And I know now, we're past spring break, and I'm into middle school education, and then going with preparedness. I know that our kids are getting a little bit older, which means that they're starting to drive, they're starting to stay home a little bit more by themselves. And in the topic of preparation, that's why you're here to kind of give us some insight on what our parents can do, to kind of help our kids in that staying home, that driving, going out into the world a little bit more by themselves.
So the biggest thing that I can say is fire prevention obviously is not just for kids, it's for adults. But that's a big topic, having children stay home by themselves. I personally have a 12-year-old, and we're dabbling with that a little bit. My wife and I go walk around the neighborhood or just run the grocery store. She stays by herself. She's not allowed to cook or use anything when we're not there. She has to do it with us. Now, then again, she's 12 years old. But from a safety aspect, even from me being a parent, I want my child to know what to do in case of an emergency if she's by herself. Mm-hmm. If a stranger comes to the door, obviously, do not open the door. How to call 911, you'd be surprised that even adults, they just freak out, and that's nature. All of a sudden, you get your phone and you're like, "What do I do?" Mm-hmm. They won't even know to call 911.
And you know what's crazy that you say that? I know kids that don't really know that address.
Yeah, that's a big thing, because when you call, they're gonna say, "What's your emergency?" And then you're going to tell them the emergency, and they're going to say, "Do you need fire, police, or EMS?" You got to know to do that. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to say, "What is the address you're calling from?" Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So yeah, some of them really don't know where they live. And man, I think too, I have 4 kids, right? All of my kids are under the age of 12. My daughter is 11, just turned 11. And I know a lot of us as parents think that our kids are responsible, right? I look at my daughter, my oldest daughter, as a responsible kid. But for me, leaving her at my house by herself, that in my mind, that's a scary thing, right? But I know that there are people who are a little bit more comfortable doing that. So with that being said, for people who have kids who they're comfortable, leaving them home by themselves, kind of tell us a little bit about what they can do to prepare their kids for, being able to stay at home. And then after that, we'll get into the driving aspect.
So, number one, make sure they have information on, say, if you're going, no, you wouldn't go out of town, just going to dinner. Even if you can give them the name of the restaurant where you're at. Mm-hmm. Give them the phone number maybe, because if they try to call you and can't get a hold of you, then maybe they could call the restaurant if they had an emergency. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing too is make sure they don't open doors to strangers. Make sure if they're going to be cooking that you give them some tip. It is. But, my daughter's 12 years old, like I said, and I understand your daughter's 11. I feel comfortable with her staying by herself when we go short places. But kids are, they're going to do what they want to do sometimes. And I know that my daughter may get the time that, I want to make me a hot dog or something. And she's not going to care that I said no, because she thinks she's grown, right? So she's going to do it. So you just need to teach fire safety to your kids, especially ones that are going to stay by themselves. Mm-hmm. So that, and you said you have more. So if you left your 11-year-old with your other kids and you expected your 11-year-old to take care of those other children, mm-hmm. that 11-year-old needs to know how to help the kids get out of the house in case of a fire. Mm-hmm.
Tell us, how would they do that? So what's the procedure for getting out of the house if there's a fire? So let's say the smoke alarm goes off.
Yep.
Right?
So they need to immediately. Well, first of all, you need to start a fire safety plan before an emergency happens, because if you try to make up a fire safety plan when the emergency starts, you're already behind the eight ball. You're already in trouble. So they need to make a fire escape plan, which includes an area outside that they can meet, whether it be a mailbox, a neighbor's house, a car that's parked in your driveway, whatever. Need to make an escape plan for emergency. They also need to know more than just one way out. Mm-hmm. So say if she's in the kitchen and you don't have a door going outside, but you've got a window and the door's blocked on the other side, she can go out the window or help her siblings, or I said her, the children can get out the window. I said her because of my daughter.
Yeah, I got that habit too.
But yeah, so there's just a lot of things. And if you need help with that, you can go on trfire.com, or you can find my information. I'm on that website. And the Fire Prevention Division can come out to your house and help you with a fire safety plan if you live in Tiger River. If you don't live in Tiger River, you live in Duncan, Startex, Greer, they'll also help you with that too.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about across the state though. So this is the state of South Carolina. So the plan that you just talked about, do those same things, does that travel across the entire state? Is that the same thing that y'all teach everybody across the entire state, or do different departments have different?
So I will tell you that we are part of the South Carolina Fire Safe Coalition in South Carolina. There's over 100, I might be wrong, but it's right at 156 or 157 departments in the state of South Carolina that just recently got their fire safe designation last year.
What's fire safe?
So what that means is it is going above and beyond to keep your community safe. We have a listed out objection of can't say big words sometimes. Getting all jumbled up. We have things we have to do. And one of them is we have to go out and teach X amount of people fire safety. We have to send our guys through classes. So you got to take a minimum of 4 fire safety classes a year just on fire prevention, whether it be teaching, community outreach. There's a class you got to take that teaches you how to go into a home and do a fire safety check and find out what's bad, what can help the kids. And then you have to document when you go out and do these things. You have to put up, like, we'll go out and do smoke alarms for free to the community. You have to document that. And once you meet all those dots, then you can submit all that information to the South Carolina Fire Safe Committee, and they can award you the fire safe designation. And we have gotten it 4 years in a row. This is our 4th year. They've offered it 5 years, but this is our 4th year in a row that we have obtained it.
Wow. Man, and I'm glad that I'm able to talk with you about the plan, and that's what my mind was stuck to. While you were talking, I was listening, but my mind was stuck on the plan, right? And the reason why that is because, I don't know, maybe when Kinsley sees this, she'll be able to tell me, but maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when we were in our house, kind of doing little things to trying to fix it up and get it right, and we were asleep early in the morning. It was maybe 2-3 in the morning, and the alarm started to go off, and then it was talking about a carbon monoxide leak.
CO for gas.
Yep. And then in that time, in my mind, I didn't know, what am I supposed to be doing? Is this something that is telling me to get out of my house, or what am I supposed to be doing? And that right there is what sparked me to understand, okay, man, what do I need to do if there's an emergency in my house, if I got an intruder, you know what I'm saying, if there's a fire or carbon monoxide again, what should I be doing? And a lot of people don't think about stuff like that until it actually happens, right?
Right, and that's when people want to make a plan. Yep. It's like, well, the emergency's already there.
Yeah, and you've given us the information to where we can go to actually prepare ourselves. And I encourage everybody who's listening and everybody who's watching, get yourself prepared, man, because I've been in this situation where, an emergency hits and you don't know what to do, and then you realize, dang man, I've been hearing this stuff for this long. People have been saying, get yourself
Yep.
together, get prepared, and you don't do it because everybody thinks it ain't gonna happen to me, right? Until it does,
Yep.
and then you find yourself stuck, and then it's even worse when you have your kids there. That's the biggest thing for me when that situation happened. The first thing that happened in my head was,
Mm-hmm.
what has this done to my kids? You know what I mean? Because as far
Well,
as I
sort of
know,
trauma.
yeah,
A little traumatizing. Yeah.
yeah,
So they've never dealt with it. And that's one thing we like to go into kids' schools and take a smoke alarm and say, all right, kids, this is what it's going to sound like. It's going to sound loud, but we want you to hear it in a controlled environment, and we'll set it off so they can hear it.
wow. All right, so I want to move on, just shifting from that, and then let's talk about that website again. You said
Fire.com. So you go on there.
and anybody in the state can access that.
Yeah, that's our fire department website.
Okay. So anybody who's listening, anybody who's watching, guys, I encourage you to go to that website, get yourself prepared, because like I said, our kids are growing up, and I know that they're staying home a little bit more by themselves now. So make sure that and they know what to do if there's an emergency that happens when you're not there. But I did want to talk a little bit about what happens with our kids when they start driving, because I know the last time we scheduled to shoot an episode together, you had an accident, and I came out near the Burger King down there, and I saw y'all down there, and I was
Yep.
like, dang.
I personally didn't have an accident, but
Yeah.
I was headed to an accident to assist the truck because even though I'm off the engine, I can still help because we're short staffed.
hmm So when kids start driving on their own, how many? Talk to me a little bit about how many accidents that you've seen with teens or preteens, because I know, this is bad to say, but I started driving super early. I had no business behind a car wheel,
I
right?
was 15 years old when I got my restricted license
Is that when
in,
you
in
started driving 14?
1998. In 1998, I was 15 years old, and you could get your permit at 15. 7 days later, you could go do your driving test and restrict the license. 7 days later.
Mm.
So 15 years old, you could drive, daylight savings time, and then 16, it automatically turned into a license.
So
Knock
did
on
you abide
wood.
by that, or were you driving before that?
No, I wasn't driving. No, my dad was transportation director in Spartanburg at the time. He wouldn't have allowed me to do any of that. I did. I followed the law, the rules. And I also knew my dad bought me my first car, my mom and dad. I also knew that if I wrecked that car, I wasn't getting another one.
Mhm. See, I grew up in the country, man. I grew up. We were driving way early.
Yeah, see, I
Just
get it that.
just driving early. But you know, how I want to know, like, how many accidents have you seen with teens or preteens, and what has it done to you? Just seeing that type of thing.
So let me tell you that there is a driving course that's really good. And I'm not telling this to push parents to go spend the money. Just it's a really good course. Alive at 25. It was designed by, and I'll get back. It's going to be. This is a good explanation of how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It was designed and pushed by parents of a teenage girl that I actually got to go on the call years ago. She was driving down Highway 14, and she was near a restaurant down in the mill. I can't remember the name of the restaurant anymore. Going towards Greer High, she lost control, flipped over upside down in a Jeep Cherokee, and she ultimately lost her life. Uh, we were actually able to, with her parents' permission, bring that Jeep to a couple of schools to show them what happens during distracted driving. And
Ooh.
now they didn't ever prove any of that, but number one issue I see on the road with teenagers, especially, is they're on that phone.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the older, like I say older, me, 41, get a drink, drop something, that's usually a distraction for people a little bit older. Just dropping. It's not necessarily phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's distracted driving on the radio or stuff like that. But kids need to. Everyone needs to stay off their phone, but especially teenagers that are just now driving. Somebody can stop in front of them just like that. They're in that phone. They're not going to see them in time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Paying attention, learning the driving book. You know, not just because you pass the test doesn't mean that you're ready to drive.
That's
You
true.
need to look into the laws. You know, I see so many teenagers and adults at our Gap Creek station. They don't know how to do a four-way stop, and they're getting ready to put a roundabout in there. A lot of these people around here don't have never been around a roundabout, so that's going to be interesting.
Mm.
So just pay attention to driving. If you get behind that wheel, give 100% attention to that wheel till you get to your location. Sorry, got a little off topic, but
No, that's
that
fine, man.
Alive by 25, that's a big push.
And that's good because I've talked with several parents who say that they have this thing on their kid's phone where they disable it once the car starts moving, and I don't know great detail into that, but there's a thing where they can disable that kid's phone once they get into the car and the car starts moving, so that way you can't text, can't answer calls or anything like that, unless there's an emergency like an impact to where your phone sets off and
That's
an
cool.
emergency alarm. Yeah, it is pretty cool, and I don't think it's new because I heard about this maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, so that might be something that I want to look into for my kids, but my daughter has a few more years before she starts driving. But that is probably the scariest thing for me coming up because I know that she'll start driving, 15 years old, and that's only 4 years away.
Yep.
That's like a high school span, man, and I can think back to how fast high school and college went for me. So that thought is starting to creep into my head. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
And I'm 3 years away.
About staying home alone, wanting to learn how to cook because I know even when I started cooking, I had an accident when I was a kid where I burned myself on my hands and my feet and stuff. There's still marks there. But just thinking about stuff like that and knowing that if something was to happen to my kids, whether it be because I left them home or I let them drive somewhere that they wanted to go, that would be hard to live with.
Oh,
But
yeah. You'd think it was your fault, even though
yeah,
you didn't have control over it, because reality, they could get hurt in your care,
yep.
even if you're there with them. It happens all the time. But that's just being a good parent, is
Yeah.
what that is, and worrying about your kids.
Oh yeah. But yeah, man, I appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry I got tongue tied. I appreciate you having me on here. I get these thoughts in my head too.
And get to going, trying to get them out. Yeah, I do the same
Yeah.
thing, man. But thank you for your time and going back to that website again, trfire.com.
Yeah.
That way you can learn, prevention methods for fires and what to do if there is a fire.
Yep. And if anyone, my information's on there, my contact information's on that website under admin, and my picture's there, so you can't miss that mug on there. Reach out to us if you need. We've got Instagram. We're on Facebook. It's Tiger River Fire, and I would be
Tiger with a Y, correct?
Yeah, Tiger. Yeah, Tiger with the Y. But I would love to come out. I'm big into community events, churches, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I got to get back into the schools and start eating lunches again because I've already been asked about that. That's real big with the kids too. Just having that interaction of sitting down and eating lunch and just not in a classroom aspect. So, hey, you stay home by yourself. What do you think about cooking? Stuff like that. So, yeah,
That's
reach
cool,
out,
man.
boy.
I think stuff like that is necessary. But I appreciate you again, man. Guys, if you like this information or find this information to be useful, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.